is Karush Koilu. Ooh, I almost ended the stream. This is brought to you by Zayuk. Zayuk is a company I founded that handles property management of large scale infrastructure. That can include our first vertical, which was homeowners associations. These are very, not sure, highly used corporations within real estate that allow people to collect funds and disperse those funds for the maintenance of the property. It creates legal boundaries and compliance documents for the members of that association, as well as any tenants or third parties, guests that they may bring onto the association, including also vendors. When homeowners bring on their own vendors, often even compliance documents may have some sort of article or section related to how that process should go along, because sometimes vendors do come in and break things for the entire structure or the entire HOA system, building system. But we also are getting into other forms of large scale infrastructure, including energy grid. The energy grid, I'm a professional engineer in electrical engineering, and it is something that I have always considered very important. And now it seems to even be gaining more importance as a result of the AI boom. You didn't see that. And this live stream is really a documentation of the day-to-day that I put in to get the company to that, disrupting $100 trillion industry. Real estate and infrastructure is $100 trillion industry, and especially across the globe, when you consider real estate, when you consider government assets, utility assets, all these things come together and build the world we live in today, and we all get to walk around and enjoy today. But the maintenance of those objects are not very simple. And especially here in the United States, where we are reaching 40, 30, 50, 60-year lifespans on a lot of residential infrastructure, it becomes more difficult, more challenging. And in these last few years, the homeowner association industry has gone from a nuisance to a serious problem. And it's tough for incumbents when you've been in an industry that is demonized. The HOA industry is one of the most demonized industries I've ever seen. And a lot of it, I wouldn't say is justified to individual companies or individual managers, but when you take it as a collective, when you see how the system is managed and organized, there's a lot of opaqueness. There's a lot of trust, and people have lost that trust completely. Even if you are an HOA manager that is trustworthy, that has been handling operations ethically with good hygiene and good financial throughput and good communication, you still likely have someone who doesn't trust you, and one of your residents, one of your customers, if not multiple. And that's not even easy to do. To become that high quality of a manager, to be able to output information and listen to people, and to be able to make people feel as though their property is functioning effectively and being managed effectively, it takes a lot of skill and ability. If you don't have that, it is very easy for things to fall through the cracks. And in HOA management, the margins are not very large. So there are other places where associations or management companies try to make those margins, and those can often be on the back end of contracts, whether that's where they're going to put the association's capital, whether that's who the vendors they're going to present to the association are. And this is where things become inherently disastrous, not just there, but also when the board is being part of the problem. There are many places, I don't think this is as widespread as it used to be, but there are still, I believe the demand for transparency is higher than ever. And it's because you're having people who are digitally native from a very young age. When you have someone who has been on a banking app since they were 12 years old, and all of a sudden they can't get access to any of the finances of their HOA for this real estate purchase they made, the largest purchase of their life, all of a sudden things become a little more, wait, why don't I have this? And a lot of it is because of the leverage placed in by incumbents. And I talk about this a lot. I think that the incumbents are going to significantly lose their leverage, mostly through decentralized finance protocols. You can see with all the legislature being passed around meeting recordings and finances that these mechanisms are not going to be allowed to persist. And management companies should really get into that zone. And even boards, I mean, a board, you can't hide anything. You have a lot of liability. Being on an HOA board in 2026 is a lot of liability and very little reward. You don't get paid. It's almost, I believe it's illegal for you to get paid in many states. You take on this liability where you can get accused of very gross things, and you can be held accountable to things that are pretty serious. And it's, in maybe yesteryear you had an easier ability to steal funds, and so you can understand, maybe, I mean, that's not ethically okay at all and it's terrible, but you can see where being in a position of leadership for an HOA does have its benefits if you are being malicious. In 2026, that is so much more difficult. People want documents right now. They want their finances right now, and many tools out there are able to give it to them. The most important thing that an HOA can do in 2026 is to re-leverage themselves. You want to re-leverage yourself, and it's not just homeowners associations, it's also property owners. Whether you are a commercial real estate owner, whether you are a utilities, whether you own the management cycles of utilities over several years for companies, you still have a lot of responsibility and a lot of liability on your hands. And you want to look to re-leverage yourself to take that liability and minimize it as much as possible for as little money as possible without a huge investment that will break the bank and hurt the company. And in that case, people should consider, how can I solve this problem? And maybe the answer to that is too complex until you see it, but we understand the problem. And that's all I wanted to communicate at this point. You probably notice I'm not in the same place I usually am, but still going to try and bring that same level of energy and quality to this live stream that I always do. Live streaming is amazing, guys. I mean, for me personally, I love live streaming. I seriously consider people should get into it. It's not easy. You have to really be prepared. But for example, me, like, if you're building something and you don't necessarily see people every day, you can really get into this rut where it's like, what's the point of getting ready? I'm not going to really see anyone today. I might as well just hop into work. And when you live stream, I have gotten into a point where I really want to put a good product out there. I really want to present myself in a way that is professional, but also makes sense, that people find entertaining, that people find valuable. And it takes time, it takes effort, but it takes intention. You have to go into it with intention. Some people just live stream, and I get it. I used to do that. I still like to do that occasionally, but there still should be some sort of production into your live stream. It doesn't just turn that thing on and go. And maybe people are able to just turn on the button and go, not put much production into it, but production is good. Production will bring out a better product, likely, as long as it's not to a handicapping degree. And by that I mean where you're just stuck in planning mode and then you never execute. I, as Dwight D. Eisenhower once said, planning, he didn't say these exact words, but they were roughly this: planning is critical. Um, let's just read it. On planning. Here we go. Plans are worthless, but planning is everything. Plans are worthless. They are, and eventually, when you get into the groove of things, things change really quickly. But planning is essential, and that is the ability to even understand that your plan is going to be adjusted, but to prepare yourself for the execution of the task, whether it is putting out a piece of content, whether it is building a new feature into your product, whether it is reaching out to people, potential business partners, and potential customers. There are many different ways to get people to execute on things. And very often you need a little bit of time going into that execution to just not completely mess it up. Not even to do great and to make sure you're on point, but just to not mess it up. That's about as much planning, I think, as you want to do, because if you try and optimize the entire execution, it will turn south. It will be, I want this perfectly executed mechanism, and it's just not going to work out that way ever. So you can get stuck in planning mode, just saying, I need perfection. Give perfection a backseat. Allow yourself to be imperfect. Allow yourself to not have fear of things. Most doors you walk through are one-way doors. I'm sorry, that was wrong. Most doors you walk through are two-way doors. You walk through that door, walking back is fairly easy. And being able to distinguish accurately the difference between one-way doors, where if you walk through that door, you're not coming back. You go through that door, there's no return. And two-way doors is important. Understanding the difference between those pathways is very important. And most people do not go through any doors because they see most two-way doors as one-way doors. But two-way doors are very obvious, whether that relates to your health, you lose a piece of your health that you're never gaining back, a relationship, you say something in a relationship, you might never get that back. This moment in time, you're never going to get this moment in time back. It's going to pass you right now. And so understanding the one-way doors and the two-way doors is going to be critical. You're never going to be 30, for me, 32 years old again. It's fine as long as you feel as though you've accomplished something in that moment. And that takes a lot of conscientiousness, not necessarily. And I know Mark Andreessen had this sort of blurb against conscientiousness, and I understand that as well. I'm not sure how accurate it is, but you can see that there are many places where that could be accurate. And I personally have done things like meditation retreats, and I love meditation, and I actually feel as though maybe not necessarily the introspection as much as the ability to focus your mind is highly valuable, because you spend 30 minutes in meditation, you could have enough focus to get through several hours. And it doesn't work like that, but you build up the focus through whatever meditation or yoga. And I think you have a better chance of just being able to focus. Now, you have people like Howard Stern and Jerry Seinfeld who are very into transcendental meditation, and they did incredible things, executed incredibly, whether it was Howard Stern's show or Jerry Seinfeld's show. And then you have people like Steve Jobs, who was very introspective. He meditated a lot and did a lot of walks. Walking is an introspective activity. If you're just walking, your mind is going to wander during that time. And then you have other people, maybe like Elon Musk, who is way less introspective. Mark Andreessen himself is much less introspective. And I like to go back to what NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang once said, and that was, there's no one path. He said he likes to read business stories, the stories of business tycoons or business icons, but he doesn't really try and take anything away from it, because everyone's path is so unique. And that piece of advice was some of the best advice I've ever heard in my life. It was incredible. It's like, this guy's got one way, I've got one way, there are these 30 other people who did it this other way, and almost none of them are alike. And the reason is because business is so, the language is accounting, profit, loss, and profit gain, of course. But what a business does and the value it adds is such a huge range of different things. Tech businesses, a lot of services businesses are roughly the same, but in the when you talk about a great business leader, many come to mind. There could be someone in sports, there could be someone in restaurants or fast food, there could be someone in tech, there could be someone in real estate. There's so many different forms of business that it makes sense. There is no one path other than profit, which is just the bottom line. And so you have all these other lines that go into the bottom line, and it's eventually it's all going to get calculated down to math. Like, did you make enough money to justify the energy and the amount of time and capital put into it, or did you not? And that is very objective. It's not easy, it's not difficult to determine that. What's more subjective is how you get to that number and how you optimize it. That's a lot more subjective. And for me personally, sales is one thing. I've always talked about sales, but I also like the idea of having something different to sell and having something that can't be easily replicated by a partner or by a competitor. Sometimes I go to a downtown area and I see 30 different people sending hot dogs. And when I see that, nothing against those people, they're hardworking people, but they are facing stiff competition. And a lot of it is about where they're going to be placed that night. But either way, I don't see a difference between this hot dog stand and the 29 next ones that come by. Whereas for tech, you can do something that is orders of magnitude better than your competition, or orders of magnitude worse than your competition. And that's why it's such an insidious field, I believe, because it's not like a restaurant. Restaurants are very difficult, but at the same time, You know what you're going to put into it. If you have a good location, a good product, a good scene around you, are able to maintain the trust within your community for repeat customers to come back. That is very difficult. The margins might not be very high, but at the end of the day, the only competition you have are other eateries. You're likely not facing something that someone's going to create that's just out of left field. The tech business, what you've seen with Chegg and Duolingo and a lot of these other softwares, is that something completely out of nowhere, ChatGPT came, OpenAI came, and that had nothing to do with Chegg, had nothing to do with giving students the ability to solve their homework problems or study for tests easier. It was a it was an AI app, yet it completely devastated the company and the company's profits. And therefore, you have to be aware in tech that something can come along tomorrow and make you obsolete. That's the scariest part, is that something can come tomorrow and make your tech obsolete. It's absolutely frightening, but it's exciting too. It's exciting too, especially if you're willing to work really, really hard. Because I think over years, it can really come back to be rewarding. All right. So earlier today, I posted something. For Zayuk, and I'm going to post that on X as well as possibly YouTube. Yeah. Sometimes you see something and you're just like, why is this on my feed? Boom. What an exciting time, huh? Hmm. Great. Great. Oh, awesome. I got a comment. It's interesting. And I'm commenting saying on a church, she said day 17 is when reality hits, starts setting in, and the initial excitement fades. The founders who make it through the next 30 days after that are the ones who actually ship. What's been the hardest part so far, building the tech or figuring out how to sell to? What has been the hardest part? I would say Boom. I appreciate people who comment so much. Oh my goodness. It's just completely validates your purpose. It completely validates your purpose. Interesting. I also find it interesting that a lot of AI startups are on negative margins. I don't even know. I mean, Uber did this, I believe. You really have to, if you're going to work like that, you absolutely need venture capital money. And as a venture capitalist investing in that type of business, you've you got to turn to faith maybe, because or look into how that company can reduce its costs, because I understand how a lot of companies are negative margin, but it should be becoming much less frequent and much less exaggerated, simply because the costs are going down. I mean, there are mechanisms within AWS and Google to get a fairly cheap LLM out. It's and you can check the margins and see those against um, available LLMs and various things. Granted, there's still some things that are very high, it's very expensive, but I've even taken those off of the cloud. I was doing a lot of photogrammetry and visual computation using GPUs on the cloud, and I realized I don't want to do that. It's too expensive. It's way too expensive, and instead, just doing it locally, uploading the data into a bucket, some sort of data area for the user to use if they don't need to compute on that visual immediately. Once you need to compute on that visual, such as get analysis, live analysis on a 3D model or something like that, you do need some sort of uh, connection to a GPU in runtime. But if you don't need runtime GPUs like photogrammetry, well, you can take that off cloud. And I'm going to be really interested, maybe not this, probably this year, second half of this year, I hope, to get into running an on-prem GPU service. Okay. It's not easy. Oh, shoot. It's tough. I think for people who are so into product to get into marketing, to get into communication, because you're just like, why am I spending so much time building out a piece of content and putting all this effort into this? And you come to realize that communicating with other people is a huge part of your business, might be bigger than the product, because it will actually develop the business. Whereas a product is nothing. I mean, someone can sell literally nothing, but a product is won't move the needle. You need to actually go out and communicate with people, and through social media you have the best options. It's really clear. You can spend a lot of time, a lot of money, a lot of effort to do one-on-one sales, and in some places, some B2B customers, it's absolutely worth it. And there are certain few B2B customers I think it's worth it for us. Zayuk, utilities companies, government companies, the government actually, their property, they might be able to, and I think we can actually create some mechanisms where they do come to us, but, and I mean that through social media. And you have to get good. You have to get good at social media. It's so important. Even if it doesn't isn't about, even if for me it isn't about getting this company through, although that's gravely important for me. That's so important. I worked very hard, and the product we have and the services we have are well worth our customers' money. But also to be a creator, you hear it all the time. People want to be creators, and creators don't make much money, most of them. Maybe the top 1% make a lot of money. But when you talk about just communication, about marketing, about growth, about sales, marketing at this point, I think it's worth more as an individual to get good at social media, to get good at social media systems, because it translates. It translates so much. If you're a creator and you have a platform, you can sell a lot of things. Look at Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast has like 20 different businesses, more possibly, of just various things, chocolate here, this, there. And so, and I think a lot of business people get messed up in this, because, and even me too, I'm a lot more liberal in what I post than a lot of business people. Some people in business have a very difficult time posting anything that's not about their product or their company or what value they add. And people don't care so much. I mean, you can only talk about your product and your company and your purpose for so long before people just want to turn away. It's like, give me something new. Give me something fresh. Give me something that'll make me feel something. Don't just tell me what you do and that, you know, you do this and that. And I don't know, just don't bore people. And it's really difficult to not bore people, but it's important. And I'm not saying that I'm great at it, but I go hard on the social media. I mean, I went to San Francisco a few, like 2 months ago, 3 months ago now, and I met a lot of people, got connected with a lot of them on LinkedIn, and there might be one of like 40 plus people that I met that posts as much as me. I think there's one. And kudos to that guy. But the rest, the other 39 plus that I met, I do not see anything that they post on LinkedIn. And it's nothing against those people. I mean, they might have more successful businesses than mine, but they should seriously consider posting more. And even met this guy who I think part of his business was like this LinkedIn social media stuff and getting founders to really work on that better. I put this post up on LinkedIn and I really like it. It's like just me at a vendor sale. It doesn't look like me because it's AI, but, and the top is, you've got issues. and it's about selling problems instead of features, and how, you know, you just communicate people's problems. Hey, you've got an issue there. I can help you with that. I can help you with that problem. Listening to customers so critical. We're going to come out with an AI feature in the coming days. It's already out, but I'm going to post it, the video to it, and it was directly as a result of talking to a customer and them saying that their property manager won't fill out this data. So now we have an AI to fill out the data, and it's very structured. And I think the structure of our flows are going to enhance our AI so much. We'll see what happens. We'll see what happens. Don't want to be, I mean, yeah, be overly optimistic. This is a world for optimism. Even today, in a world where there's so much nonsense going around and whatnot. Um, Give me one moment. I'm about to get this. Uh, wow, City of North Las Vegas has a very nice uh, city hall. Okay, great. So that's now out. Great. I got this out and I got and by this I mean a great, great. And now I need to post something for myself. All right, guys, I'm headed out. It was great chat today, and I'll be back tomorrow. Excited, thankful,